Day 35. Biscuits. It is Sunday and day 35 of our Spanish lockdown. We got up and had breakfast, and I finished my work in our little studio. I needed to paint the bottom of the walls. I found some paint, and it was still okay. Normal life seems so long ago. We are now into our second month, and I think I have had enough. I can understand why all those Americans have come out into the street and demanded that they can reopen for business. It does sound selfish, but there really is only so much lockdown that you can cope with. I really admire the Italians. They have gone through hell and back. Day 35, and I was thinking about school. And had I been better academically, would my life have been different? It probably would. I do remember working at the BBC and the subject of which university did you go to? Well, I didn't go to university at all, and when I told my colleagues, they all looked quite aghast. The BBC was a funny old place to work in. There were a lot of well-meaning souls who'd never done a day's work in their life. We used to have regular editorial meetings, and everyone brought their copy of The Guardian to suggest news stories that we could perhaps cover on the radio station. I brought a copy of the Daily Mail, on the grounds that according to the research, most of our listeners were lower middle class, cab drivers, shop workers and the like, and love it or loathe it, the Daily Mail would probably be their paper of choice, rather than The Guardian. It did not go down well. The only good thing about the editorial meetings was that we got a tin of Rover biscuits for each meeting to go with the tea and coffee. If it was an important meeting, there were sandwiches with wine too. Unheard of at LBC. They did later, as a cost-cutting exercise, stop the wine and sandwiches, but the biscuits carried on. I'm not going to blame my schooling for a lack of university education. I was quite a lazy, feckless boy. Always a C, rarely a B or a B+. But I don't think I was stupid. It was just like a lot of kids at school. The one-size-fits-all didn't work with me. I neither fitted in or made many friends. After suffering a crazy 60s phonetic teaching experiment called ITA, and after the first 2 years at school all I could read was this crazy language and not a word of ordinary English, I did catch up. Many of my classmates did not though. Then on to junior school and a fairly undistinguished passage through the school. The final year, there were too many pupils for the two classes, and I, along with 10 others, draw the short straw. We were put with the year below us, sharing a classroom and Mr. Pumphrey. Mr. Pumphrey was one deeply unpleasant man. It was clear very on in his career that he realised he'd made a terrible mistake becoming a teacher, particularly at a school that served a council estate. So he had little interest even in the year he was teaching. What he did was to devote 2/3 of the blackboard to his year and a third to us. He would write a list of things we should quietly be doing whilst he taught the rest of the class. I spent a whole year doing, well, nothing. I learnt, well, nothing. I sat next to a really clever and gifted boy called Peter Chantry. He was doomed. We were all doomed. We didn't even get a chance to sit the school certificate. It was a given that we'd all go to Westlands Secondary Modern, on the edge of the council estate. Westlands Secondary Modern was typical of deeply underperforming schools of its time. A hideous 1960s building, roasting hot in summer and freezing cold in winter, with a rag bag of teachers that wouldn't look out of place in a St. Trinian's movie. My only real friend was Nick. He was 6 foot something and I was 5 foot nothing, and we made an odd pair. We both struggled with school. It wasn't the best days of our life. The headmaster was a brute, whose name I forgot, but managed to cane some poor boy at assembly every morning. Not the same poor boy, I hasten to mention. There was hope on the horizon. The school was getting a brand new teaching block and upgraded status to comprehensive. The trouble was, the whole building process was going on around us. I remember that the wing that had the science labs, metalwork and woodwork rooms was shut and being reformed. So for woodwork, we had to learn theory. And trust me, there is only so much you can learn about sodding wood and dovetailed joints and the like. We were luckier with science. They opened that part of the block early and we were treated to proper science labs, fully equipped, and a fully equipped biology lab with the most amazing new teacher who inspired us all. She had come from industry and had worked for Bayer in Cambridge, so really knew her stuff. Unlike my form teacher, Mrs. Finding, who spent most of her teaching career sneaking off to the reprographics room to be banged senseless by fellow English teacher Mr. Boyley. When she wasn't spread across the Roneo machine, she would balance on top of the radiator and show her knickers off to the workmen below, building our new teaching block. So it was really no surprise I didn't go to university, and I guess I was lucky that I got any kind of job at all. As it turned out, I have had and continue to have a most wonderful and satisfying career. If you have enjoyed listening to Spanish Practices, it really helps us if you leave a review on iTunes, or why not hit the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube. Find out more at thesecretspain.com.